Welcome everyone to another week of the Global Sports Channel's football show, week 35. You're with your host David Barbash here with my co-host, welcoming back Darren McCauley, striker extraordinaire for Derry, Coleraine, Inverness and St Albans Dynamo. Recently hung up his boots, but we are so excited to always have you on the show, brother. Brother from another mother, welcome back. How was your week?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me back.
You're welcome, my friend. Welcome. Anytime. Well, listen, this is going to be, I think, a good week. Definitely for my team, Leeds United. I'm really looking forward to this week. Overall, for you, maybe the results didn't go your way this week. However, the goal is achieved. When we get to the results, the goal is achieved of basically getting to the promised land. So we'll get to that in a bit. We're going to kick it off, however. Semi-finals, Champions League, second leg. Chelsea, looking for a place in the final. They were at home to Real Madrid. And I have to say, I'm excited to say Chelsea 2-0 winners at home to Real Madrid. Deservedly so. Even though 68% possession to Real Madrid, more shots on goal, more shots on target, 13 shots. Chelsea had 5 shots to Real Madrid. Timo Werner, 28th minute. Mason Mount wraps it up in the 85th minute. What was your take on the game? Do you think Chelsea are looking good going into the Champions League final?
Yeah, I think they're looking amazing. They deserve the one without a doubt. They were all over Madrid. Madrid doesn't look like the Madrid of old. Chelsea looked as if they've been in Champions League finals consistently for the last 10 years based on that performance, and it hasn't been the case. So I think they've really grown under Tuchel, the manager, and it's going to be an exciting final.
What do you think? Thanks for the comments. I think you bring up a good thing about the manager. What do you think has been the difference maker with Thomas Tuchel as a manager versus the Frank Lampard's side that we saw earlier in the season?
Well, the team now look a lot more confident. They look a lot more structured, and the team under Lampard, I feel, was a little bit. It looked a bit immature, and it looked as if it was a team of potential, a team that maybe in a year's time or 2 years' time that they would be fighting for the league. Whereas right now they seem to have sped up that process under this new manager, and they look as if they could beat anybody. And if they get consistent, which they're starting to do that, then they could be a real danger next year for the Premier League title.
I agree with you. If they added 1 or 2 players, where do you think they could maybe slightly elevate where they're at now, if it's possible? Do you think there are any weaknesses in this side?
Maybe their defense. I think their attacking threat is fantastic. They've got enough players and creativity to score against any team. Their centre backs and their right backs. Who have you got? You've got Zuma, Rudiger. The right back, I'm not too sure. Azpilicueta is.
Azpilicueta.
Maybe he's getting on in age.
Alonso.
I'm a huge Alonso fan. I'm a huge Ben Chilwell fan. So I think they're secure there. So their centre back and their right back, maybe they bring a bit more pedigree. I know they have Thiago Silva, but he's also getting on in age. So maybe next year, if they bring a Van Dijk type player into their side, then they'll not be far away.
You know, I think that type of player has made a difference. Listen, it's not just Van Dijk. Last year was Van Dijk. This year it's Ruben Diaz with Manchester City. One player can make a difference. I mean, Ruben Diaz for Man City has made a massive difference. And I think some of the signings that they brought in, Chelsea, have taken a while. It took a while to maybe get that chemistry, but Timo Werner has woken up. He had a cold spell earlier in the year where he wasn't scoring. He's starting to get onto the sheet. Hikam Ziyech had a spell where he was out of the team and on the bench. He's come back in, but that depth up front you were talking about, amazing, because it's got the Pulisic, and you've got the Varner, and you've got Mason Mount, and you can just go through. On the bench, Olivier Giroud, he's not necessarily done. You've got Hudson-Odoi, and they've got, I think, depth up front. And you're right, Chilwell, one of my favourites as well. They moved on. It's going to be exciting to see that final. Europa League was up next, and when we had our good friend Mike, and it's a shame that he's not on, because we would have been taking the mickey, because Arsenal really, a 0-0 draw, they had their chances, 9 shots, but only 1 on target against Villarreal. Villarreal goes through 2-1 on aggregate. The only thing I don't get is they start Aubameyang. They've got Pepe, Smith Rowe, and Odegaard up front, and that they literally don't partner Lacazette with Aubameyang, and they swap them out in the 79th minute. Oba goes off, Lacazette comes on, and then they leave Nketiah. Why bring Nketiah on in the 91st minute? I don't. Some of these decisions I don't get. What was your take? Arsenal just, hey, not a great season for them overall. They're sitting in 9th in the league and sputtering, really. A side that's capable on the day of beating anybody, but not the Arsenal side that you think of from past glory, you know?
Yeah, I think it will be a disappointing season for Arsenal. Their only hope of getting in the Champions League was to win the Europa League. And they didn't do enough on the night. Villarreal dug in. They deserved it, and they have a lot of Europa League experience, Villarreal, throughout the years. And the decision to bring on Lacazette instead of Aubameyang, or vice versa. He probably didn't want to upset the structure. He probably seen that there was going to be a breakthrough, and maybe he just needed a change of personnel. But at the same time, if you have those 2 strikers on the pitch, that's goal. Yeah. That's a goal threat, and it's almost an old-fashioned thing to do, is put 2 strikers and go for a 4-4-2, and just don't overthink it, and just put the danger men on the field. But Arteta, I don't think he's that type of a coach who's going to do something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think let's see, if you think Arteta will be around next season. You think they'll give him more than 1 season?
I'm not sure. I think it depends if there's any higher profile managers who want to take the position. If not, then I think they'll stick with him. But if you've got a Ancelotti type character from the continent who's looking for a job, then Arsenal aren't going to say no.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's move on to the highlight of the week for you. Even despite, in the second leg, a 3-2 loss, Man U losing away from home at Roma, 3-2, they go through to the Europa League final, 8-5 on aggregate. You can't really complain on this one. However, a little bit, parts of the game, at the beginning of the game, you were thinking, hey, it's looking good. Cavani puts you up. You're up 1-0. You're cruising, literally, at that point, you're cruising 8. What was that? You were cruising 7-2 at that point on aggregate. You've got no worries. All of a sudden, second half, Dzeko, he scores an equaliser on the night. Chris Dane, in the 60th minute, puts him up 2-1 in the individual leg. And then Cavani with his brace in the 68th minute pretty much finished the tie. And then, of course, unlucky Telles with the own goal in the 83rd minute. Listen, I think he's had a lot of good rotation lately. He's giving some of the youngsters some chances. Greenwood's been a revelation, in my estimation, for Man U. He's the youngster. I think he just has scored the most goals. Is this right? Most goals under 20 years old for a Man U striker since Rooney. Is that right?
It was quite close. The last time I seen the stat, he wasn't too far behind. I don't know if he's caught it yet. Maybe he has.
Yeah, I saw it. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was in this game or maybe the game that was talking about today. We'll get to that at the end of the show. But it said something about Greenwood beating the Man U record for how old is Greenwood?
He must be 20.
Yeah, so I think it's like 20 and under. He'd scored the most goals, I think, and either beat or match Rooney's record. So this is a start for the future. He's really come on in the last maybe 10 or 12 games. Happy with the win, of course. Give me your view as a Man United fan on reaching the Europa League final and the game overall in the second leg.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good achievement. They deserve to go through. It was a fantastic fixture. Roma and Man United always seem to produce goals. At the end of the day, the main thing was getting the result and getting through on the aggregate scoreline. But there was a moment where I thought, here we go, Roma could produce a few goals and it could kind of be squeaky bum time, as Alex Ferguson puts it. But Cavani, Greenwood again pops up. Players that are really on fine form. And no, United deserve to go through. It's a good thing. It's not ideal. We don't want to be in the Europa League. We shouldn't be a club that has our eyes on the Europa League. But it's a step in the right direction for next season.
Yeah, listen, you're going to get, hopefully, unless you completely collapse in the last few games, you're going to get second place and deservedly be in the Champions League. And hey, I think out of pride, if you win the Europa League final, I think that's probably the goal, other than finishing second and securing Champions League play. It'd be nice to win the Europa League. And maybe, hopefully in the off-season, you can actually, with Champions League football again, you can really get, like you said, I think you mentioned last week, instead of getting the Freds of the world, maybe, and Fred is a good player, he's a world-class player, but maybe you could attract an even bigger marquee name coming to the side. And Bruno Fernandes, for me, has been a revelation. Who else has been a revelation? Is it Mason Greenwood being one of the revelations of the season for you? Yeah,
Greenwood, Fernandes, Cavani probably surprised a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
The keeper hasn't done bad as well. Young Henderson. De Gea is kind of out of the picture now. So, but Greenwood, Cavani and Fernandes for me. Rashford earlier on in the season was looking quite sharp. Martial earlier on in the season was also looking very good. But those players haven't really peaked yet. It'll be exciting to see Rashford or a Greenwood really go on. They had the heights of maybe a young Ronaldo, hitting those 30, 35 goal mark. And that's only going to give them the status that they need to be considered world class, because at the minute they're not there yet. They're kind of just edging towards it.
Yeah, I think, you've got the Harry Kanes of the world, of course. Harry Kane, it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up in the transfer window. But they still, to me, are not at the Kane level yet. Kane consistently bangs them in over 20. But I tell you what, Greenwood, between the two of them, Rashford and Greenwood, Rashford's a lethal striker, but Greenwood, for his age, man, this kid has come on leaps and bounds. We're going to cover him a little bit later in the show as well. His name's going to come up again. Friday, we're back to Premier League action. It was surprise of the week. Leicester City fighting for third position with Chelsea. They were at home to Newcastle. Newcastle, obviously, pretty much safe at this point. 4-2 losers, Leicester City at home to Newcastle United. Shock of the week. Couldn't believe it. 68% possession to Leicester City. But a youngster I really like for Newcastle, Joe Willock. He's a talented young player. I think he moves on, and I could see him. I'd love to see him at Leeds. I really like Joe Willock. He put them up in the 22nd minute. 34th minute, Paul Dimmet makes it 2-0. And I'm thinking, what am I watching? And then, you're not going to believe this, Callum Wilson in a brace, 64th minute and the 73rd minute. Who would have said, if I put £1,000 before the game, if I'd said to you, would you bet £1,000 that Newcastle could be up 4-0 against Leicester City in the game at some point? Were you mad not to take in the bet?
No, absolutely. It was a brilliant performance from Newcastle. They're on a good run of form now, and Callum Wilson, fantastic finish, explosive player, doing really well. And sometimes when you play a possession-based game, you can be hit on the counter quite rapidly. And if things go really well on the counter, you can look quite foolish. So it does happen to teams that do tend to dominate possession from time to time. They can leak goals quite quickly, and that's what happened.
It did, and then in the last few minutes, they got a little bit nervous. I think it was too late to make the complete comeback, but Albrighton makes it 4-1 in the 80th minute. And then my favourite, I've talked about this guy for the last maybe 10, 11 games, Kelechi Iheanacho makes it 4-2, but in the 87th minute, and it was done and dusted. One thing I brought up a while back when Iheanacho went on this run and he started scoring in like maybe a 5 or 6 game stretch where he seemed to be scoring nearly every game for Leicester City. I thought he was the main reason why Leicester City stayed in the top 4. Vardy went on a cold spell. Do you remember this? Until about maybe 3 weeks ago, Vardy was on a 12 games scoreless stretch in all games played. He didn't score a single goal in 12 games. At the beginning of the season, Vardy's right up there, along with Salah and Kane, and he's right up there with some of the leading scorers in the Premier League. And I think, if Vardy gets his scoring touch back, I still think they're missing a player or two, Leicester City, but they are dangerous when Iheanacho and Vardy are on form. They could be lethal, you know?
Yeah, look, Vardy's been really consistent over the years, and it's not like him to have a dry spell, but Iheanacho has came in and without a doubt he's produced goals. So attacking-wise, I don't think Leicester are in a lot of trouble. They still tend to produce a lot of goals, a lot of goal scorers. But as you say, I think we do need a little bit more high-profile players who have strong European experience to really give them that chance of winning a Premier League title again, or getting into the Champions League and getting to a Champions League final. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, but it will take a few more good signings.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe shore up maybe 1 or 2 changes at the back. They usually don't give up a ton of goals overall. They've had a solid defense, but there are some aging players in there. I mean, but a couple of your favorite players, I know, or at least your favorite player to me, you mentioned, when I bring up Leicester City, you always mention James Maddison. So he's one to look for the future. And I think, maybe 1 or 2 signs for them, and they could maybe prove some people wrong like they did a few years ago. Let's move on to the game of the week for me. I have to get excited about this one. Leeds United, my side, 3-1 winners at home to Spurs. Hey, VAR a millimetre one way, and it could be a different story. But I have to say, Leeds made me proud as a fan. Last week, I was eating crow because Leeds were pathetic. Worst performance of the season, losing to Brighton. Absolutely deserved to lose that game. I have to say, if somebody tells me Leeds didn't deserve to win this game, I don't know what they were watching. Stuart Dallas, your fellow Northern Ireland footballer, Stuart Dallas, up in the 13th minute by the... listen, we got a bit of luck on that one, right? Cross comes in, and the defender, the Spurs defender, I can't remember who it was, he actually tried to tap it back to to cut out the ball going to Dallas, and he tried to basically block it back to the keeper, but too hard, and Lloris was forced to palm it. He had no choice but to palm it to his left, and Dallas was there and actually rifled it into the top corner. But Leeds' weakness, despite all that dominant possession, well, it wasn't dominant possession, but 53% possession, and having more shots, 12 shots versus 7 shots of Spurs, they fell asleep in man-to-man marking. Luke Ayling did not pick up his marker, and that meant Son went through on goal, well-taken goal, no chance for Meslier in the goal. It's 1-1. Here we go. We got a game on. Now, Patrick Bamford, 42nd minute, well-taken goal. We go up. We go in at half-time. It's 2-1. Now, second half, a big debate. Leeds, dominant in play, the press. They look great, free-flowing football. They looked a different class to Spurs, and I'm going to ask your opinion on that. However, at 2-1, we fall asleep again. I think it looked to me from the naked eye that I thought maybe Harry Kane is level when he slots the ball in past Meslier. He's level with the defender. VAR comes to the rescue for Leeds by a millimetre. It's ruled out. And of course, Rodrigo comes on, replaces Bamford, and in the 84th minute, Rodrigo finishes it off 3-1. You saw the game. Before I ask you your opinion on this, my players of the game, Meslier in the goal as a 20-year-old. He is an outstanding keeper. He's one to look for the future. At the back, the youngster, Pascal Struijk, fantastic. Llorente, best signing, I think, along with Rafinha, who was out still. Coke and Dallas, my players of the game. Player of the game for Spurs, if anybody was finding the holes in the Leeds defence, it was Dele Alli, who hadn't been given a chance under Mourinho. What was your take in the game? I loved it, but I'm a Leeds fan, I'm biased. Let me hear your unbiased opinion on the game.
Yeah, Leeds are in a good vein of form right now. It's good to see Dallas performing well. He's got a real consistency about him now. And, I mean, they've only conceded 1 goal in this game, which is an achievement for Leeds.
Yeah, that's true.
It would be nice to see them get more clean sheets, but I don't think that's in Bale's nature as a coach. Yeah, they're performing well. Really well-deserved result. Bamford with an exquisite finish. But Tottenham, again, Ryan Mason won't be happy.
No, Ryan Mason will not be happy. They had a couple of other chances, which the one that Meslier palmed over that was going into his top left corner, looking at the goal, top right corner. What a reflex save. This kid has made the odd mistake at the back with his distribution earlier in the season, but as the season has progressed, second games against the top 6, where we've had basically the second games in our what you call rematch against the top 6, Meslier has performed outstanding. Do you think, from a neutral perspective, did you think that Meslier as a 20-year-old would have, I think he had 10 clean sheets or maybe more for the season, the most since Joe Hart. I think it's the Premier League record, 10 or 11 maybe clean sheets, which is quite an achievement in itself.
He's a young goalkeeper, so it's to throw him on is also a brave decision by the coach. But I don't think he's fazed by that. Bielsa to throw on someone who he thinks is good enough. Maybe if he was an English manager, maybe younger players wouldn't have got that opportunity. But he's come on leaps and bounds this year. For a 20-year-old, it's a very young age for a goalkeeper. So, I mean, it's early days, but he's on track to become one of the best in the world, because if you're 20 and you're playing in the Premier League and you're producing good performances, then the sky's the limit.
Yeah, the sky's the limit. I mean, obviously, Bielsa looks back at the tape and he sees, hey, when we played you 6-2, we got blown out. Next game, 0-0, 1-1 first game, Man City. We go back and then we beat them in the rematch. So I think Bielsa's a stickler for looking at tape and making those adjustments, and I think he's a great manager to play under. So Mellier's got an amazing manager in Bielsa. Let's see what happens with Leeds. Let's move on. You're tired of hearing about Leeds. Let's move on to the other games on Saturday, and that was Sheffield United, already relegated. And we'll see when we look at the other relegated teams, we'll tell you who they are. At the end of this week, it will be a Premier League record that all bottom three teams will have been relegated with 3 games to play. All 3. Nothing going down to the last game, which is quite amazing in itself. Crystal Palace, one of those sides I can't figure out. One week, they look like world beaters against some of the top sides, against Liverpool, for instance. And then they get blown out in another game. So Christian Benteke with the goal in the second minute. Eze in the 88th minute. Enough said on that game. Man City, one of the games of the week. Man City 2-1 losers at home to the side we covered before, Chelsea. And it really highlighted something here, the resilience of the Chelsea team, because Sterling puts Man City up in the 44th minute. And yet, second half, Hakim Ziyech tied it up. And one of the guys you mentioned earlier on about maybe this guy being at the back, but he has a penchant for going forward, and that is Marcus Alonso. He wins the game in the 92nd minute. Very interesting. An interesting tinkering lately with the side starting for Guardiola. And Aguero starts. He's healthy back, right? Jesus, who hasn't been in the starting lineup as much lately. Sterling, who really hasn't started a lot of games this season. And I believe we had Mendy as well, if I'm not mistaken. So really weird. I favour right now Chelsea. And we're going to, let's see what happens in the Champions League final. But it's a nice win for Chelsea before they get to the Champions League final and face Man City again. Did you see the game? What was your take on Chelsea's win over Man City?
Yeah, it was a good result for Chelsea, especially that the Champions League final is coming up at the end of the month. So it always helps to beat the team that you're playing in a different competition. Aguero, I think he done the chip in that game. He tried to chip the goalkeeper Mendy on a penalty, and it didn't work out.
They missed 2 golden edge chances, didn't they? The penalty, number 1, yeah.
Yeah, so it's and Guardiola wasn't happy at the end. It made them wait a bit more for the title, which, as a Man United fan, is always good. Unfortunately, that's not the case now. But no, it was a good result for Chelsea, especially given that the Champions League is coming up.
Yeah, and who's your pick going into Champions League final in the rematch between Chelsea and Man City? I
have a feeling Chelsea will do it. I have a strange feeling they'll do it. I have no real logic behind it. Just my instinct tells me that over the years they've tended to, when they haven't been winning the Premier League, they've been doing quite well in the Champions League or the Europa League, and Manchester City have pushed for years, and whereas Tuchel has just came on and kind of not walked into it, but he's came in a short space of time and could win the Champions League in his first season. So those things tend to happen in football. But I'd be happy for Guardiola they won it because he has done a phenomenal job at Man City, and it's the only true. And I'd be happy for Aguero as well. Because it's the only trophy that he hasn't won.
Yeah, I think me too. It pains me to say that. I'm not a big fan of Man City, but I'm a fan of Pep Guardiola and the job that he's done over there. And listen, he's proven it. You saw him when he was at Bayern, right? And Barca, he's a winner. He's a pure winner, and he has been a winner here. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with Chelsea as well. I just think that Tuchel is going to set them up. I think they're going to be better under pressure on the day than Man City on the day, pressure-wise. And let's see what happens. Now, one of the things that I think the player for me, for Man City for the year, has hands down the difference maker has been Ruben Diaz. And we saw there was a stretch earlier in the season where John Stones was absolutely pathetic. And the first 5 games of the season, that defense looked horrible. However, healthy bodies back, Ruben Diaz, he's made Cancelo and Stones that much better. And that defense overall, what is it? They've only given up, in 35 games, they've only given up 22 goals, I believe, at the back, which is astonishing.
Yeah, they're a complete team. They really are. And Laporte as well has improved at the back. So they're one of the greatest Premier League teams of all time.
Yeah, they're going to be tough to beat. However, let's see what happens in Liverpool's situation. Talking about Liverpool, let's go to the next game. Liverpool 2-0 winners at home to Southampton. Not a surprise. Sadio Mane, 31st minute. And then it was in the balance because Southampton had 10 shots on goal to Liverpool's 11. Fairly even game. And then up pops Thiago Alcantara, and he settles it in the 90th minute. Where do you see Liverpool next year? Do you think that this is going to change the chemistry? Do you think they'll have some players leave? Or do you think this is just, injuries? I mean, to give you an idea, they've had so many injuries that the backup centre-back backups are injured. And so they put in Reece Williams and Nat Phillips at the back.
Yeah, those names don't inspire confidence. And Liverpool, if they lose a couple of players in the transfer window, they could end up slipping down the table for the next few years. I know if I was a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, now would be the time to put in a huge money offer for Salah. If things aren't going quite well, I would strike now, especially when the likes of Benzema is getting on. So that could happen. If it doesn't and they keep their players and Van Dijk comes back and they add a couple of really strong, experienced, formidable centre-backs, then I see no reason why they can't challenge for the league again. But I just think with Chelsea, Man City, Man United, Leicester, those teams are ahead of them right now, and it might take Liverpool a year to bounce back from this season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think some of the players as well are getting on a bit. You know, you're going to probably see people like James Milner leave. Are you going to see some of the maybe midfield get broken up? I don't know. It's hard to say who's going to leave. I mean, Henderson, you think he's gone and Henderson's gone, you think Milner's gone, or do you think Henderson still stays around?
I think Henderson will stay. He has a couple of more years left in him as the club captain. I can't see him going. Milner, who is a fantastic professional, a really good player. He could move on just because of his age, but I know he's always first in the fitness test. So then again, you never know. Wow,
that I didn't know. So thanks for pointing that out for our viewers. That's amazing. Sunday, we've got more games coming up. And Sunday was Wolves 2-1 winners at home to Brighton. Thank God somebody got Brighton back, because after the beating that they gave Leeds, I was looking for somebody to get Brighton back. However, Lewis Dunk puts Brighton up in the 13th minute, and then the idiot gets sent off. Sorry, Lewis, but we're going to call you an idiot at this point. You get sent off in the 57th minute, and then it lets basically Wolves back in it. Adama Traore, whose fluke goal beat Leeds earlier in the season, 76th minute gets the equaliser. And then, cruelly, in the 90th minute, Morgan Gibbs-White, he scored the winner in the 90th minute. And then in the 97th minute, Neil Maupay also got sent off, but that was pretty much the end of the game. 61% possession for Wolves, but I think the difference is Lewis Dunk got sent off. Until that point, Brighton were in it. They looked decent. Yes, the possession was way tilted towards Wolves. But Wolves have been wasteful, really, with finishing since, obviously, earlier in the year, and when Rui got injured with that, the cranial fracture. Did you see the game, Wolves?
Yeah, Lewis Dunk produced a really good header, and then he decides to take down the Wolves defender, which is a difficult decision because, on one hand, if he takes him down and Brighton go on to win the game, he looks like a hero. But now he looks like a villain because Wolves bounce back. And a really good goal by the young player Gibbs White. Yeah. He did miss a good chance, and then he followed up with a fantastic finish. And Adama Traore as well, nice footwork inside the box and produces a good finish. And it will be good to see him score more goals, because if he can do that, then he has potential to be a world-class player. So good result for Wolves.
Yeah, and I think, definitely a good result for Wolves. Inconsistencies really cost them. Obviously, they get their talisman back next year, then I think there'll be a lot more danger up front. Maybe they add some players in the transfer window. Leeds, I've heard, possibly considering Traore, because we need somebody with a little bit more steel. And he's a bit of a bull, but I'm not convinced on his fitness level, so we'll see. But we'll see about that. Next up, your side, trying to keep that second place and secure it for the Champions League automatics, which by now pretty much you're going to go through to Champions League either way. 3-1 winners away from home to Aston Villa. However, I got a bit nervous because in the 24th minute, Bertrand Traore, he actually put Aston Villa up. The Villains were up 1-0. I don't know if you were nervous at halftime or you weren't, but a penalty, Bruno Fernandes steps up, he gets the equaliser. Greenwood, 4 minutes later, he scores once again. We've been praising him all the time. And then the man you constantly lately have been praising, Edison Cavani, comes off the bench in the 65th minute. He makes it 3-1 and wraps up all 3 points. And then Ollie Watkins gets sent off in the 87th or 89th minute, towards the end of the game. He got sent off. What was your take on the game? Did you enjoy the game? Weaknesses, strengths of Man U in the game?
Yeah, look, it was a deserved one again. Again, those three players, Fernandes, Cavani and Greenwood, have just been on such a fine reign of form that you almost expect them to produce the goods now. And then Watkins at the end, I see where he's coming from. He, as an attacking player, he sees the goalkeeper coming out. He nicks the ball just ahead of the goalkeeper and goes down. It as simulation, it is a foul. It's a yellow card. So he should have got sent off. But by that stage, I think the game was already over. And these type of results, these type of games are now games that Man United are expected to win. And they're the type of games where maybe a Tottenham would lose or they would draw. So it's good to know that United are getting consistently by not easily, but beating the so-called lower teams.
Yeah, you're right. And I think well-deserved. Aston Villa, listen, I think they deserve to be where they're at, given the fact that Jack Grealish has been out for such a long time. I think with Grealish in the side, I think they're more of a threat to maybe creep in to around sixth place, possibly get into fifth or sixth. Maybe, I'm not sure. If they definitely need some reinforcements, but I think they're a different side with Grealish in the side.
Look, the manager's done a great job there, and they do look a different side with Grealish. He has a swagger, a confidence about his play that he just brings something a little bit special to the team. I'm a huge El Ghazi fan.
Me too.
I think he's done great, and Watkins as well. Your favorite player?
I love Watkins. Ollie Watkins, man, one of my favourites. Let's move on to another game. So congratulations to Man U, another win in the book. West Ham, this one surprised me. 1-0 losers at home to Everton. West Ham lately have been Jekyll and Hyde, and Everton for the season are Jekyll and Hyde. Two Jekyll and Hyde teams. I don't get it. 69% possession to West Ham. 7 shots on goal for both sides. Only 1 on target for West Ham. I don't know. Mikel Antonio, since he's come back into the side, I don't know if they're looking like the same side. Lingard's gone off the ball a bit. Ben Rami doesn't convince me at all. Not like he convincing me when he was in the Championship. And Calvert-Lewin with the winner in the 24th minute. What's your take on these two sides, West Ham and Everton? They're West Ham still in the mix. This is crucial for West Ham. They could not afford to lose this game.
Yeah, look, they've both had a good season in terms of where they're at as clubs and the competition ahead of them. Especially West Ham. I thought Everton would creep into the top 4, but that's faded away within the last couple of months. And West Ham now look more likely. Antonio Lingard, I would give them a break. They haven't. It's only been a few games where they haven't maybe scored or maybe performed reasonably well. So I would go easy on them from that point of view. And it's a good season for West Ham. They've overachieved without a doubt. And David Moyes has done a fantastic job there. So again, it's exciting to see where they'll go next season. And a top 6 finish for West Ham.
Amazing
or
job.
Everton would be a good season.
Yeah, I think for both of them, great. But West Ham, the job that Moyes has done, one of the best signings, of course, for the season, Jesse Lingard from Man U. Wow, did he take his chance. And I think, listen, it's at the end of the season, some of these players are tired, I think, and you're going to have these games towards the end of the season. Maybe they have an off game. So we'll give them a break there. I'll give them a break there. You're already on their side, so you don't need to give them a break. Arsenal up next, and West Brom relegated because of Arsenal. Mike's side 3-1 winners at home to an absolutely anemic West Brom side. What can you say? Smith Rowe, 29th minute, Pepe, 35th. Pereira, I like Mateus Pereira. If there's anything that I like about West Brom's side, it's Mateus Pereira. I would love to see Mateus Pereira at Leeds. He's one of my favourite players. He's just in a West Brom side that leaks goals like every other game, like just not every other game, every other minute, I should say. And then I think Willian wrapped it up in the 90th minute, 3-1 for Arsenal. Not going to spend any more time on that. And interesting thing, Fulham, Monday's game, third side relegated. So Sheffield United relegated a few weeks ago. The night before on Sunday, West Brom relegated. Burnley beats Fulham away from home, 2-0. It sends Scott Parker's side back to the Championship. I feel for Scott Parker in a way, and yet it's not their defence that's sending them back to the Championship. It's the anemic up-front strike force. Mitrovic on fire the last few seasons in the Championship. I don't know what happened to him. I really don't know what happened to him, and I feel for Scott Parker, but again, results are results. They go down despite 68% possession, 14 shots on goal for Fulham. They had the shot advantage, and yet Ashley Westwood and Chris Wood seals the deal for Burnley. Man U up next, today's game. As we were getting ready for this broadcast, Man U were playing at home to Leicester City. If Man U loses the game, they hand Man City the title. I have to say, this has to pain you, brother. Man U 2-1 losers at home to Leicester City. And before we get to the individual scorers and the stats, I have to say, to be fair to your side, Solskjaer has 3 games coming up, including today's game, in 5 days. He had chosen 4 days ago to announce that he was going to make changes. And people probably weren't going to agree, some people, with his decisions. I'm one of those looking at the starting lineup and saying, you rest on the bench. You do not start Pogba. You don't even sub him. You don't start Fernandes. You don't start Rashford. And you don't start Cavani. And because of that, I have to say, in the 10th minute, a beautiful cross comes in from Tielemans, an absolute smashed volley into the top corner from the youngster. Luke Thomas puts Leicester up. However, your boy right there, 4 minutes later, Mason Greenwood to the rescue. He ties it up. And then the Turkish player for Leicester wraps it up in the 66th minute. Kaglar Soyuncu, I hope I'm not pronouncing this the wrong way. He wraps it up. You've got to say, this is probably down to team selection. You can't really say Man United at full strength are going to lose this game, but anything can happen. What's your take?
Oh, look, I'm really disappointed in his team selection. I see where he's coming from with the amount of games that they have, but I mean, just to give Manchester City the title so easily, it's crazy. I would have started his best 11 and took them off around the 60th minute. At least give Cavani and Fernandes, put them on the team sheet, put them on the starting 11 so that the players have a foundation to go out on the pitch with confidence and they can feel as if they're going to win the game. If it's a draw around the 65th minute, take them off, give them a rest. Don't play them the full game, but whatever you do, don't play a weakened side and give Man City the title that easily. I understand that there's a lot of games and he wants to protect his players for the Europa League final, but I think it's a wrong decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is the wrong decision. In fact, he waits until the 66th minute, once Leicester go up 2-1, and then he brings on Cavani, and then he brings on Fernandes. And for me, too late. So, done and dusted, the title for Man City. The last game of this day, literally as we were getting on this broadcast, Southampton 3-1 winners at home to Crystal Palace. Doesn't really mean a thing in terms of relegation or the top 6. However, Danny Ings back in the side does make a difference for Southampton. He gets a brace. 19th, 75th minute after Shea Adams had made it 3-1. Now, the weird thing was, even though a 3-1 win, Christian Benteke in the second minute had put Crystal Palace up. But deservedly, overall in the game, Southampton deserves the win. Now, these are the table so far. 3 games to play with most of the sides, with the exception of Leicester City. 35 played. Man City wins the title, 80 points. Manchester United, 10 points behind, 70 points. Failed to take advantage today. Leicester, with 1 game extra played, they move up, I believe, into 3rd with 67 points, I believe. Could be wrong. I think it's 67 points. They went to 3rd. Chelsea played 35 in 64 points. West Ham, 58 points. Liverpool, 57 points. So, mathematically, if Man U loses 2 of the games and somebody like a Leicester wins their rest of their games or a Chelsea wins the rest of the games, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think you guys are going to secure second spot. And even if you don't, you're still going to be in the Champions League. So well done. Mike's, our ex-co-host, Mike is Team Arsenal. in ninth place, 52 points. And my side, I have to say, I'm very happy. Right now, they're in 10th position, 50 points. I would have taken that if you told me before the season a newly promoted side like Leeds, with the squad that they brought in, with the talent that they had, people thought they had coming in, absolutely take that. So we've still got 3 games to play. Let's see what happens. Tell us about, you've got, tell us about in terms of the football, you've got football Facebook. You want to tell us about the football show on the Facebook? You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, thanks, David. So I'm doing a Facebook Live football presentation. I'm going to announce a date today, and it's basically a presentation for players, parents, and coaches of any age, really, to give players starting out in the game a real strong understanding of where they want to go and how they want to achieve their goals and how to be a professional player and how to be a semi-professional player. And it's a real combination of the physical, mental and social factors that are required to become a successful footballer. So it's basically a combination of all the things that I've learned in my time, and it's a combination of things that when I was starting out to become a player that I wish that I knew, or at least I had an awareness of. So it's completely free. It'll be a Facebook Live, and it's simply just to help players, girls, boys, men, women, it doesn't matter. Any age will benefit from it. So I'll announce the date today, and hopefully people will tune in.
That'd be great. And where could they get the details on that? Where do you want to?
So it'll be on my Facebook. So I'm going to put a Facebook Live on my coaching page. So I've created a coaching page called DMC Coaching. It will be a combination of football mentorship, fitness, and yoga instruction. So it's a combination of all those things. It'll be on my Facebook page, and it will be on my personal Facebook account as well.
So you look up Darren McCauley on your personal Facebook page, and as well as you said, the DMC coaching, is it?
That's it, yeah.
Right. Awesome. Thank you once again, my friend. It's always great to see you. We wish you so much luck with his Facebook page and the Facebook Live, I should say. I think it's really, really selfless of you to do this for free, to give back, per se, because I know when you started out and you were a trainee at Celtic United, I'm sure along the way, whether it was Celtic or Derry or Inverness, Coleraine, I'm sure you relied on mentors. I know you say you wish you'd knew what you know now back then, but did you have mentors that influenced you along the way?
I had one, and it's something that I really do appreciate a lot more now. I had one, and he passed away when I was 14.
Oh, no.
And then apart from that, I kind of just always had this mentality of going it alone, which really is not something I would advise. It's something that, I found it really difficult to ask for help and reach out for help and guidance. And it's something that really, as a young player growing up, you shouldn't do. If there's someone who you look up to, and there's someone who you may have a positive effect on you and has your good interest at heart and wants you to succeed as a player and grow as a man, then definitely go towards that person. I went alone. I went it alone for so long, for far too long. And so my advice to young players is certainly find a mentor, find a few mentors who you trust and who have your interest at heart, and it will help you become a better player.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for giving back that you're doing now, because now you can, as you're getting older, you can recognize that and provide that to younger players before it's too late, you know? So kudos to you. Kudos to our viewers for tuning in once more. Week 35 on the Global Sports Channel. You could follow us on globalsportschannel.com. You can also check us out on iTunes. And we appreciate your viewership and listenership. And have a great week, everyone. We'll see you soon, and hope to see you soon, Darren. Take care, my friend.
Thanks. Cheers.